So today we're going to be mixing up a silicone called Amsil 25. The 25 represents the Shoei hardness of a 25A Shore, and that's just a medium soft silicone. If you go down to a 10, it's quite a bit softer, or if you go up to a 40, that'll be quite a bit firmer. 25 is a really nice hardness because you get the firmness, kind of keep its shape, but you also get a fair amount of elongation properties and stretch, which is quite nice on a mold making silicone. So to open up these paint tins, we've got a little gadget here. This really helps to open up these paint tins. And just get into the lip there and give it an open. And before we start measuring them out and mixing, we need to give them a bit of a pre-mix or a pre-stir. So on the part A here, I'm going to get a mixing stick in and just give it a bit of a stir just to make sure if any settlement has occurred, we get that mixed in again. You can feel it normally down at the bottom of the container. This one feels fine, but if they have been on the shelves for a couple of months, you do get some settlement that occurs. That feels absolutely fine, so ready to go on the silicone. And then also just the same on the catalyst. We're going to give the catalyst a nice shake. And we're good to go. So for this little mixing demonstration, we're just going to measure out 100 grams of silicone with the appropriate amount of catalyst. The mix ratio on the system, we normally recommend a 2% catalyst. So if you have 100 grams of silicone, we're going to add in 2 grams of the catalyst. But you can also tweak this catalyst a little bit. You can drop it down to 1.5% if you're wanting a longer pot life to give you a bit more time to work with it. And you can also increase the catalyst up to about 3%. So if you want to speed the system up, you can also do that. But for this little demonstration, we're just going to stick in the middle at 2%. So let's turn the scale on. This is a little 2 kilogram scale, measured up to max of 2 kilograms. And what's really quite neat about this scale, it measures in 0.1 gram increments, so it can be really nice and accurate. So I think for this demonstration, we're just going to measure out 100 grams. The container here weighs 22.5 grams, so we're just going to reset that to a 0 figure, and then we're good to measure out our silicone. So let's do 100 grams of silicone. We've got just a little bit too much in here. We've got 102, so I'm going to take a little bit out. There we go. So we're going to add the catalyst. So I mentioned it's a 2% catalyst, so we only need to add 2 grams of catalyst to this. So it's a very small amount. And I find what's quite a bit easier is to make a small little hole on the top of the catalyst in the seal. So if you put a small hole in the seal, that just allows you to use as a little dropper bottle, and you can actually dispense quite carefully those 2 grams. So we're going to reset the scale again, and now we're going to measure out the 2 grams of catalyst. So as you can see there, you've got a bit of control now about how to dispense that catalyst. So I've got 0.5, 1 gram, 1.8, 2 grams. So please try and work very accurately when adding the catalyst. This catalyst is concentrated. So if you do go up to that 3% accelerating, it's going to have quite a significant effect on that pot life. It's going to speed it up quite tremendously. And if you're doing a fairly large job mixing up a lot of silicone, you don't want that silicone setting on you before you've had a chance to use it. So now that the catalyst has been added, we need to give this a good blend to make sure we have A and B nicely mixed. And while you're mixing, you need to scrape the sides of the container, scrape the bottom, and just give it a really good blend. So also just be sure to use the right size mixing stick for the amount that you're mixing. For a small amount like this 100 grams, this little tongue depressor does a good job. But if you're mixing up a larger amount, let's say 3 or 4 kilos, and then a larger mixing stick like this over here would be more appropriate for that. And the little trick that I like to advise is to basically do a mix pour mix technique. So once you've given it a really good mix in one container, is actually just transfer it across into another clean container and give it another mix. And this little step is to make sure you don't get any unmixed material on the sides and bottom of the container. Okay, there we go. Just give that a little bit of a mix. And that's been nicely blended and ready to use. So this silicone, as you can see, has a nice flowable viscosity, so that can be poured over a mold to make a little block mold. And then if you would like to use the silicone as a brush-on system, with the brush-on technique, you can also do that. So we've got a thickening agent over here called Thixo, and this thickening agent can be added into silicone to increase viscosity for a brush-on application. So you normally add a maximum of 2% of your thickening agent, so we'll add 2% again, which is going to be 2 grams to the 100 grams of silicone. So let's add those 2 grams. There we go, 1.9 is close enough. And then you're going to take the silicone from a nice flowable consistency to a thicker, almost toothpaste-like or Vaseline-like consistency for brush-on application, so the silicone can actually hold on a vertical surface. It just takes a little while for the chemical reaction to occur. And there you can see the silicone is thickened up nicely for a brush-on technique. Please don't add the thickening agent if you're intending to pour the silicone for a block mold. This is specifically for doing a brush-on mold technique.